Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Taylor, and you are listening to episode 56 of the Trauma Dump Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump Podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others? This week, we will be discussing the topic of what is a trauma bond? What is trauma bonding? With our very special guest of the week, Stephanie. You can go follow Stephanie over on TikTok. It is at Stephanie Raub. That is at STEPHINIERAUB. So please go check her out and support her for being on this episode and sharing her story. And just a quick disclaimer before we start, I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast only seeks to create community and further understanding of these topics that are so often overlooked and extremely misunderstood. If you or a loved one are in need of medical professional help, we have resources in our description. The topics discussed here are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is always advised. And if you're liking what we're doing here on the Trauma Dump Podcast, please hit that like button and subscribe to us to get more amazing content. We post new episodes every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we post Instagram stuff. We have an Instagram. It is at The Trauma Dump. So please go check out the Trauma Dump Podcast over on Instagram and support us even further. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome to the Trauma Dump Podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. It's so good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Where can we find you on socials?
I'm on TikTok at Stephanie Raub, and then just Stephanie Raub on Facebook. Instagram is at bombshell_Steph.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. So today we're going to be talking about overcoming some trauma, yeah?
Yeah.
What type
Yeah.
Yeah, this Trauma Dump Podcast. Ooh. What type of trauma have you gone through?
What trauma haven't I got? No. I mean, my life is a lot better than than other people's lives. Sometimes I see stories about people and I'm like, wow, like that really puts into perspective some things that I've been through. But we all experience our own traumas in different ways. And I don't think that anybody should ever negate that. So I grew up in a regular military family. My dad was a F-16 pilot, so he was gone a lot. I'm the oldest of three girls in my family. I'm 5 years older than my middle sister and 10 years older than my youngest sister. So, I was out of the house and in college when my littlest sister was still in like middle school. I think I had my first baby when my youngest sister was in middle school. So, but I guess like my trauma kind of started my senior year of high school. Well, it probably started actually my freshman year of high school if I really want to go back that far. But I always put a lot of my self-worth into how other people viewed me, especially boys or men. So my very first boyfriend, very first love, as you would say, he told me that if I lost weight that he would love me more. So I starved myself. And that was the beginning of like unhealthy situations, unhealthy bonds to people. And yeah, I mean, he loved me until he didn't want to love me anymore. And then I was left out to dry. So then I always looked for the next person to love me. And I would do whatever I could do to get them to love me. Um,
Yeah.
so um, then my senior year of high school, I was actually raped by my boyfriend.
Hmm. I'm so
And
sorry.
I didn't realize that it was rape that time because it had been consensual before. But what women should and men should know is that even if it was consensual before, if you are not okay with it in that moment, then that is not okay. It's not consensual at that point.
That's
Um,
very true.
so come to find out, I went off to college. Come to find out, he had been sleeping with other people unprotected. He raped me unprotected, and that caused me to I got an STD, with a curable STD, chlamydia. But I just felt so dirty, and
Hmm.
I felt like it was my fault. Like, what, I let him do this to me, and you know, so trauma, 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 trauma. So here's these little balls of trauma that keep on like tumbleweed kind of behind me. Or if you want to like picture the little boy on what's that cartoon? He carries the dirty blanket behind him, and it's,
Like
all the,
Linus?
yeah, like Linus. So here I'm dragging my little dirty blanket of trauma behind me through my life. Um, and then, I mean, I was very self-destructive in college. I didn't care. I drank too much. I had sex too much. I um, didn't go to classes. I just was in a really bad place mental
Mm.
health wise. And in that time, the early 2000s, mental health wasn't talked about as much as it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even like rape or trauma or any of that stuff wasn't talked about like it is now. Um, so I met my, while I was in college at K-State, I met my um, first husband, and he's the father of my three children. He was in the army, and let's just say, in the beginning, our relationship was like amazing. I thought that, he was gonna, I was gonna be married to him for forever. And nobody says I do and says like, cool, in 9 years, I think we're gonna get a divorce and it's gonna be terrible and it's gonna be nasty and it's gonna be horrible and all of those things. So one thing that I say um, over and over again is that I would much rather be physically abused than mentally abused,
Mm.
because when you are mentally abused, when you are verbally abused, those words and those mental like digs, I think of my mind as like this record player, and it's just stuck on that same track, and I can just remember the exact sentences, the exact words that people have said to me that have caused trauma or something in my life. Um, so kind of fast forward, he had some pretty bad mental health issues from the army, from being deployed and seeing some of the things that he saw. But I wanted to protect him and care for him in any way that I possibly could. And in the very end of our marriage, I was pregnant with my, she's now 9, but 6 days before she was born, he tried to kill himself in front of me and my other two kids.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. I'm so sorry.
and so, yeah. So we got him into treatment. He went to a 30-day treatment facility specifically for military people. And I thought, like maybe that's just what we needed. And we just, we're going to be okay. And those demons just they just never left him until he passed away in 2018, which was 2 years after we got divorced. And we did not have an amicable divorce. We didn't have There would be times where we would talk to each other like friends, and then there would be times that we were so bad and hateful to each other. And there were times that, I just thought, wow, like I can't believe that I stuck around and like allowed this to happen to me. So when he passed away, though, that was the craziest, situation that I think that I can remember, because I literally went into a state of like shock and mourning. And I think for 3 months, I don't remember a lot of the things that I did or said, and I drank more, and I didn't know what to do, because regardless of the fact that we had had an ugly divorce, and regardless of the fact that we were no longer married, he still was the dad of my kids. And so I mourned him like you would mourn somebody that you love and care about, because I did care about him. I care, he gave me 3 beautiful human beings to care for the rest of their lives, and without him, I wouldn't have my children. So, I had already remarried right before, he passed away. So, and that's who I'm currently married to. And he, Matt was really great through all of that. He never once like said, this is not what I signed up for. Like, now I got 3 extra kids and they don't got a dad, and you have all your mental health issues going on, and I just like, this is not for me. So you know then the next trauma that occurred was in 2019. I had a surgery that caused me to have sepsis, and I was in the hospital for 28 days. I almost died. And again, a, a trauma. It was just, I never could get out of this vicious cycle of like, dude, what the fuck did I do to deserve all of this shit? Like, and these are just like little points of trauma that I've had. Like, that doesn't even include like the bullies that I had growing up, or the bullies that I even have now as an adult in my life. But so 2019, in the hospital for 28 days, almost didn't make it, had to have emergency surgery. My kids almost lost another parent. That was hard on everybody. And then as soon as I was getting better, as soon as I was starting to feel normal again, guess what happened? COVID-19. So
Ah,
yeah. So I'm a hairstylist, and I own a salon.
wow.
And
Ooh.
yeah, so even though we have like the same, we use the same cleaning products as like hospitals. We have to clean up after every client, they shut us down. And so what did I do? I turned to alcohol, and I was drinking probably a liter of whiskey a day. just to get through the day. And sometimes I drank more than that. Sometimes I would drink enough to fall asleep, take a nap, wake up, go to the liquor store again, drink some more, and finally, it's funny that we're having this like conversation in this moment, or at this time, because it was around this time of 2020 that I was like, I think I'm and I think I'm addicted to alcohol. Like, and because that was all I could think about. I literally could not go. I woke up in the morning and I went through the day just to get through the day and have my next drink. And so on July 13th of 2020, so here in a couple weeks, I'll be celebrating 4 years of sobriety.
Wow, that is an accomplishment, Stephanie.
Thank
That's an
you.
accomplishment. That's
Thanks.
amazing.
Um, so July 13th, 2020, I was just doing like normal everyday things. Like I think I went to go get my hair done, and I was shaking so profusely because I needed people in my life. And I don't know if anybody's ever been through withdrawal. It fucking sucks. It is not fun. Like the brain fog, the shake, everything. So I called my therapist and I called my med provider and I was like, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to just like drink myself to death. I don't know I don't know what I can do to get out of this cycle of where I'm at in my life, right? So I was like, and I had already Googled like local detox places. So I went, I checked myself in to a treatment facility that was about 45 minutes away. Um, and I swear, girl, that in itself was like, I tried to talk myself out of it on the way there. And then you get there, and because there's people from all walks of life that come to treatment facilities, when they told me they had to take all of my like comfort items, like my pillow and my blanket and things like that, and put it into a bug zapper, I was like, y'all, I'm out. We gotta go. It's all right. I'll just do this myself. No,
Oh,
thank you. But my husband was like, no, you need to stay.
yeah.
You will be okay. It'll be okay. And that was the beginning of, you know, choosing myself and really starting to heal, because healing without being able to numb it, that really fucking sucks. Like that's so bad. Um, because you can't escape it. It's just there. So, um, over, you know, over the next 4 years or these past 4 years, um, I have I go to therapy weekly. Um, I finally got the genetic DNA testing to see which antidepressants and things like that are good for me. And if you haven't done that, it's so awesome. They swab your cheeks and then they send it off to a lab. It's called GeneSight or GeneSight. And then you get this report back that shows you your green and your yellow and your red. Have you ever heard of it?
I kind of have, my mother is a genetic genealogist, so she did a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
stuff, yeah, with your genes to try and figure out um, a lot of different genetic markers, but I've never done it. I've done the DNA testing one and then trying to see what I was allergic to but
Mhm.
I haven't done that one. And I really kind of want to. That sounds like
Yeah.
fun, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me tell you, I only have three antidepressants in my green. And so every single medication that I had ever been prescribed had a negative effect on me. So um finally we got me on the right medication. And that was like just a couple months ago. Um but within that 4 year time, we went through a really terrible custody battle with my husband and his ex-wife. So now uh, we we have a blended family of five. So our kids are 17, 15, 15, 13, and 9. So
Wow.
we have them all full time.
Mhm.
And um I'll tell you what, nobody will break your heart like your kid will break your
Oh.
heart. You just, and I just wanted to break I needed to break the cycle. I am breaking the cycle. I'm breaking the generational cycle of trauma because you have, there's generational trauma and then there is your trauma. So, like, regardless of, have you ever read the book, The Body Keeps Score?
Of course I have.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So it's a super dry book, but it's so good. It makes you really, really understand. Like, some days you wake up and you're like, God, I just feel like total shit today. And then you look at the calendar and you're like, oh, that's why. That checks out. That's the day this happened or whatever. And it's sometimes our mind is so good at like trauma dumping things that our only our body remembers it. So, you know, then when that time comes back around, then we're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. That's why I don't really feel awesome today. Um, so the one thing that me and my therapist talk a lot about is, you know, the trauma bonds that we form with people. So trauma bonding happens in like narcissistic relationships versus like empathetic relationships. And I am extremely empathetic. Like, I can look at someone's eyes and I can know when they are in pain. I can feel negative energy as soon as it's around me. And sometimes it's super hard for me not to take on other people's stuff. So sometimes I have to be like, before I leave work, I have to just like sit in my car for a second and just, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. I gotta decompress, you know, all of those things. But the way that my therapist has described to me of healing your trauma is, think of every trauma in your life as like a necklace. Have you ever tried to untangle a ball of necklaces?
Girl, my whole job, I have a business, it's called Gracelets. I make crystal beaded jewelry. So I also make
Uh-huh.
necklaces. And oh my goodness, my fiance didn't put the necklace stand back the way it's supposed to go so the necklaces don't tangle. So I was unboxing for a vendor event and I just looked at like 58 necklaces and like crystals, and crystals are jagged and they're wire
Yeah.
wrapped. And I was like losing my mind. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So undoing all those traumas, trying to heal from all those traumas. Sometimes as we're pulling out one necklace or one trauma, here comes that other necklace and it's like, I want to go too. And so you're like, I can't do it all at once. But sometimes you have to because it's just connected. They're like connected, and they just keep, it's Linus's dirty little blanket. You're dragging all those traumas back behind you. Or as some people might call it, their luggage or their baggage, And you cannot tell me for a second that nobody in this world has baggage, because I know for a fact that everybody has baggage. And it just really depends on how do you carry your baggage, like how do you unpack your baggage? Well, I have to unpack my baggage with a therapist, because if I don't, then I go into a really deep, dark place. And that is somewhere that I don't want to go, because that's where I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, I I can't do that cyclical thing.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, the one thing that I try to just tell myself sometimes is like, you aren't what has happened to you, and you aren't what people say you are. You know your heart, you know who you are, and you know your intentions, and you know all of the things that are true and not true. So I've really had to create boundaries where I am like, yep, that's not going to take that on. I am not going to take that on. And that's something that my therapist has really worked into me. She will ask me, she'll be like, why does that matter to you? And then I'll be like, actually, maybe it probably doesn't matter. But in that moment, it did. In that moment, it really sucked. And then in that moment, it really hurt. But, you know, maybe it's not that. Maybe I don't need to take that on. Maybe I just need to move past it. So, and then you have like the keyboard warriors, those online bullies that just, why? Why do you have to be so negative? Everybody is fighting a battle. Everybody. Addiction. And I'm not talking just drugs or just alcohol or just food or just whatever. Addiction can come in so many different forms. It can come sex, shopping, let's see, exercise. You can over exercise, you can over shop, you can overeat, you can, um, you know, lots of different things.
And
So
trauma bonding is often seen as an addiction, like to a
it is,
cycle.
yes, it is. And, and that is why a lot of empaths are attracted to narcissistic people, because they're so charismatic, and in the beginning, they give you this sense of like, wow, they make me feel so special and important. And, um, I've never had anything like this. And then they tell you, if you lost weight, I would like you more. That's the flip, where
Mhm.
what do they call that? They
Devalue
demoralize you,
you. They
devalue.
devalue.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, and then it comes back, and then they love bomb you again, and you're like, okay, well, I just, you know, I just got to keep on being skinny, and he'll still love me, you know, and that's a cycle. You're addicted to, like, it's a feel good, because
Hmm.
who doesn't want to be loved? Like, I mean, you have to, everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants love. Um, Everybody wants somebody to care about them. And absolutely, that is an addiction, to have someone love you. Because when you don't have somebody who loves you, it doesn't make you feel very good. That's for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, my love. Yeah. And it's real. Like trauma bonds are something that can be created in so many different ways, not just in, romantic relationships, but they can also be created when two people or more people experience a very significant trauma together. And that trauma helps, solidify a relationship or a shared experience. Like from my life, I know that my fiance and I originally were kind of trauma bonded because when we first started dating, my dad had just died and my mom was abusing me to no end. And he rescued me. Like he really did. I was going to be living in my car if it wasn't for him because my mom said that she didn't want me anymore. She didn't want anything to do with me. And so I had nowhere to go. He's like, "Oh, I'll be there for you." And like we immediately went to therapy, like at the start of our relationship, and went to therapy to try and figure things out because he had experienced a lot of abandonment throughout his life. Like his bio dad abandoned his mom when she was pregnant with him. So that abandonment like was in deep in his cells from the moment he was
Yeah.
born. And then his bio dad came back, but then physically abused both of them. So that there's that level. And then his bio dad left again. And his mom told him to keep it a secret. Don't tell anyone that he's abusing us. Don't tell anyone that he's leaving us. Don't tell anyone any of this. And so when he saw me being abandoned by my mom and my dad dying, he was like, "Oh, I need to protect her. I don't want her to experience what I've experienced." And that
Yep.
really
Come
bonded
come
us.
into my bubble. Come into
Mhm.
my trauma bubble and we can
Mhm.
have trauma together. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. And it took us going to a therapist to be like, you guys can love each other, but you can't love each other because of your trauma. You can't protect each other because of what you're going through, because you're not going to be able to heal. You're just leaving yourselves almost like frozen, stuck, like Mr. Freeze, what is it, Dr. Frozen, whatever, like DC character, like he like
Yeah, yeah, yes.
freezes his
Hmm.
wife who is dying and he's like,
Yeah.
"No, I won't let her die until I find the cure." And he freezes her and he also freezes himself so he doesn't age.
Hmm.
It's like that. You don't allow, your person to heal and grow and develop. And so it took us, going to therapy together and also on our own, which was scary, of being like, "Hey, once you start to change and grow and heal, if the other person is not healing with you, they're either gonna A, hold you back, or B, leave, like leave your life."
Or
And we
you
didn't
need or you need to
leave
have them.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's the
so,
boundaries that
yeah.
a lot of people who have trauma don't have. We forget our boundaries. Because we just are, we want that love and we want that connection. So, yeah, um, I totally understand that. And I'm sorry that you went through that. I mean, your fiance, but I'm so happy that you guys chose therapy over, something else.
Yeah, I was broken, so broken. And I was talking to my fiance because we got together 2021. We've been together for a little while. And I was asking him, I was like, "What would you tell previous Joey about how you want to go about this relationship with Grace? What advice would you give him?" And he said, "Get her on medication immediately." And hold her whenever she's crying, even when she tells you not to, because he's like, "I've noticed throughout our relationship, you punish yourself by saying, 'Don't touch me, don't hug me,' because you feel like you don't deserve it." whenever you're really sad. And so that's what I would tell little Joey, because it would have solved so much heartache if I had
Girl,
just hold you.
you're like making me tear up, because that's like same. Like, keep them at arm's length, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
I keep them at arm's length, then I don't get attached,
Mm-hmm.
and or self-destruct, because if I self-destruct, then, you know, then they will, then they won't want me or whatever, pick a fight, because that's what my brain is telling me to do. Pick, 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 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Exactly. And that's what
or
I
hide,
did.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's what I did in the beginnings of our relationship. The first year, I would just lash out and get very sad and break things. And I'm an artist, so I paint
Mm-hmm.
and I draw and I crochet and I make pottery and I make jewelry and I sing and I dance, and I would just destroy like my works. And whenever I was feeling, very angry, depressed, like resentful, not towards anything that he was doing, but towards life in general, like the situation that I was in. And one day I was like breaking things, and he just grabbed me by the arms. He said, "Stop, just stop. You're not hurting me. You're hurting you. Stop hurting yourself. Stop." And he was like, "You make such beautiful things. Stop destroying it. I love this painting. This is my favorite one. Do not destroy my favorite painting." And I was like, "Well, I don't deserve to make pretty things. I don't deserve to live in pretty places. Like, I grew up in chaos." And he's like, "Well, stop going back to the chaos that you're comfortable in. Sit in the uncomfortable feelings." And he just like I don't know, jujitsu bear hugged me, put his like feet in my like hips and just held me while I'm raging and crying. And I needed
Yeah.
that. And I like eventually started to calm down because he was taking really slow, deep breaths. I eventually started to calm down, and then I cried. I cried for a very long time. And he's like, "Do you feel better now?" It's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, we're gonna pick up everything. We're going to put them back on the walls. I don't care if there's rips and tears in your paintings. You're putting it back up. They are still lovely despite everything that's happening. I love you. You're going to be okay." And like that level of differentiation that he had is insane, because we're the same age. Like, we're a month apart. Like, I think this happened when he was like 22. We were 22, but he is so wise. But he could not have been so wise if it wasn't because he didn't keep healing himself and healing his attachment wounds and healing his trauma, and recognizing that the trauma is not who we are, it's what we go through. And I'm so grateful for him. I got one of the good ones, and I don't think I
Yeah.
would be here today if it wasn't for him. Not to say that he didn't struggle as well with suicidal thoughts and depression, but it was never, to the extent where I was ever in danger or he was ever in danger. He would recognize them, tell me how he felt, and then say, "I need to go get help right now because it's not fair to you and it's not fair to me." And I'm very proud of him. But we couldn't have gotten to that place if we didn't take the steps to heal. And healing is uncomfortable.
Oh,
Healing
for
those trauma
sure.
bonds,
Yeah.
not easy.
Untangling necklaces. Just, you're always gonna think of that now. And I mean, honestly, like, that's what healing trauma is. It's like untangling necklaces, because it's all kind of just, and it's in your brain,
Mm-hmm.
And then as you start pulling it out, it's like, I don't want that necklace today. Stop, you know? But then
Mm-hmm.
there's, it kind of sounds to me like you also have like a form of imposter syndrome, kind of like me, because when I got sober, I bought this building that was like 20 times the size of my last building that I rented. And I turned it from a old soda fountain and pharmacy into a salon and day spa and a boutique. And I mean, like my ceiling is all different color. It's 5 different colors, my ceiling. It's very I don't know. It was my art, you know. Hair is my art too. So I totally understand the artist part of it. And if you look back at most artists, we like artists just like have a tendency to have mental health issues regardless because we just are
Yeah.
such like expressive beings, you know,
Hmm.
ways than one. So I totally understand that self-destruction and self-destructive mode that you get into because you're like, what did I do to be happy? I'm not supposed to be happy. I was told I was supposed to die alone, I was told I was going to die alone. I was told that nobody would love me. I was told, that lots of things, that I was too fat. I've been told I'm too skinny. I mean, there is so many different things that I've even been called a narcissist. And that's like one funny thing that and I think, finally my therapist, she was like, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "If you figured you looked up and tried to check off the marks of if you're a narcissist or not one more time, she goes, actually, you know what? I'm just gonna go." And she went and got like the book that I think it's like a DSM
Yeah.
15 or something. I don't know what it's
The
called.
DSM-5, the
Yeah,
Diagnostic
5. Yeah.
Manual
Yeah.
Statistical. Yeah.
She like brings it out and she's like, narcissism. And she's like reading the thing and she looks at me and she goes, "Now, do any of those things sound like you?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I like the way I want to look pretty." And she was like, that's not the type of thing that I'm talking about with narcissism. Like they are gross about how they have to present themselves or present their kids and or make their kids look or make themselves look or make whatever. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So you don't think I'm a narcissist?" And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I've already told you this. No, you are not a narcissist."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Like
um,
narcissistic personality disorder is a real mental health and diagnosable issue. And it stems from extreme insecurity and control and shame and projection of everything that you are not. Like you feel so much shame. And so you try to
mhm,
make yourself out to be like the best, brightest, most beautiful, better than everyone else. And it's severe projection. And when we've been abused by someone with narcissistic characteristics or narcissism, it skews your sense of self in such a way that you not just hear your inner dialogue of like, oh, I'm a good person, I'm this, I'm that. You hear them over yourself. It's like
oh,
they're shouting over you.
mhm. Yep, 100%. And that's why I have like affirmations written on all of my mirrors in my bathroom. And it's like, your anxiety doesn't define you. People love you. Um, because I have body dysmorphia too, obviously, from, you know, like having that very first boyfriend that said, "If you lost weight, I would love you more." So, um, I actually, at my heaviest weight, I was like 265 pounds. And obviously, I'm not 265 pounds now, but when I look in the mirror, I still see 265 pounds sometimes. And I'm uh, like, I don't want it. I look fat in this. And my daughter, she's the 15-year-old. She's like, "You are not fat. What are you talking about?" She was like, "If you're fat, then I'm fat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I just don't feel very pretty today." And she was like, "Well, I guess if you're not pretty, I'm not pretty because everybody says I look exactly like you. And I'm like, okay, touche, my friend. Like, so, it's funny because kids, they will, they're like, why are you talking to yourself like that? Or why would you say that about yourself? Because if you're saying that about yourself, then you're saying that about me because everybody says I'm just like you. And
Yeah.
that really brings things into perspective because you're like, oh, because I look at my daughter and I'm like, she is so beautiful and she's so smart and she's all these things. And then I'll turn around and I'll be like, God, you're ugly, like, and, or you're, that was stupid, Stephanie. Why would you do that? Why would you, make that decision or whatever? And
Mm-hmm.
it's, having kids is sometimes we have to like take a step back and be like, would I ever tell my kid what I just told myself?
No.
No, I sure would not. I
Yeah.
sure would not. Or
Yeah.
would you tell your best friend what you just told yourself? You look fat today, girl. Like, what? No, you would never say that to somebody. I mean, that's just not that that would never even cross my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the most unkind to ourselves. We are the hardest on ourselves. And especially if we've been mentally abused, it's that constant chatter in the back of your brain. Have you seen Inside Out
I
2
did. I
yet?
got to see it. It's so good.
Okay. So that anxiety attack, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I could never describe how an anxiety attack feels. But
Mm-hmm.
then when anxiety was like, you know, like spinning in circles, and I was like, that is the most accurate depiction of an anxiety attack that I could ever like put out there.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
real.
it is. It so is. And sometimes it's over dumb stuff that I have anxiety attacks. I don't know about you, but it'll be like, you know, over like that I stubbed my toe and then I just start crying. And then that turns into like me thinking about other things, which then cause me to go into other things. And then it's like, and that's kind of how Riley was feeling in that moment. She was like, I want to be cool for these new girls and I want to make this hockey team, but I still want my other old friends to really like me. And I don't know what to do because I'm in the middle of this whole situation. And now I feel out of control. And that's what anxiety is when you cannot control your surroundings. So,
It's true. It's very true. Anxiety is like fear of the future and the inability to,
what?
have control. This is Mochi. Hey, my Mochi. I love you. She's 8 months old. She's
Aw.
a blue healer Aussie mix, and she's a gremlin, and she really wants to say hello. The Mochi Wong. But
And that if we could all love ourselves like our animals love us, that would be amazing too, wouldn't it?
it
Because it's
really
so
would.
it's so unconditional. Like animal love is so unconditional.
Yeah. I'm not her human. My fiance is her human. She loves him like nobody else. And it's kind of insane. Like as soon as he gets home, because he's a plumber, as soon as he gets home, no matter how disgusting he is, she's like, oh my God, my human, right, Mochi? You love your daddy so much. She's like, yes, I want him to come home right now. But she can hear him before he even gets
Hmm.
on our street, and he comes home at different times every day, and she
Yep.
knows. I don't know how she knows.
They know what each car sounds like. It's
She's so
wild.
crazy. And then I
Yeah.
have my service dog. Her name is Gigi. She's a seizure alert service dog, and she will like be there for me when I'm having anxiety attacks. So there she is. Gigi.
Hi, Gigi. I have a Labradoodle that I will be
Oh,
training to be a service animal.
that's so
And
exciting.
her name is Libby, and it means Libby is Libi, and it means my heart.
Oh,
So eventually she's going to be trained to be able to put pressure on me when I'm having an anxiety attack. And because to have a service animal, they have to be trained in two things, right? You know this.
hmm
So the two things that we will train her on is pressure therapy, which will be used for me and my daughter, who has also anxiety attacks, and then also retrieving medication. So those will be the two
Yeah.
main things that Libby learns.
Her
But
tasks.
yes, she's still a puppy, very much so. She's in that awkward, like floppy stage where she still doesn't think, like she's like, I don't know that I'm big. Like I think I'm small, you know? But she's
Mhm.
so funny because if she gets on the bed with me and then somebody wants her to come out of the bedroom or leave the bed, she will stand on top of me and she will bark at them like, no, I am here with my mom and no, you can just go on, leave me alone, you know? So
Oh,
um,
they're so
yeah, that,
precious.
yes. Dogs, I, you know, dogs can teach a lot of things in life.
hmm
Loyalty, unconditional love, all of that. So,
You really can. So, how did you first go about healing your trauma bonds?
um, I would say the first step was just kind of really looking at everything without the ability to numb it with the alcohol. So, um, I was kind of just forced to heal. Um, so with I'm on my front porch. It's my happy place. I have like wind chimes because they make pretty noises, and I just have a wraparound couch and I read. So a guy just rode by on a riding lawnmower. So, um, but finding the right therapist that, because I need somebody sometimes who will just call me on my crap and be like, are like, is that really a good idea? And she's awesome too because I can walk in her office and she's like, oh boy, we got a lot to unpack today, don't we? And I'm like, yeah, you know, or I'll walk in there and she'll be like, you seem like you're doing really good today. Um, so it's just healing from my trauma. I just I had to do it without that numbing that that thing that pushed it back down for temporarily because it's still there. Um, and so yeah, just finding the right therapist, going to weekly therapy, that has been super important. And if I miss a therapy session, it it's never good. It doesn't turn out good for me. So yeah, because then it's that cyclical self-destruction that I can get into if I don't go and talk about it and stuff like that, because I internalize everything bad, because I don't want to be a burden to anybody else. um so sometimes, if I miss a therapy session or whatever, I really notice like that next week, or those next 2 weeks are just really long, and I have trouble, getting through just like the smallest of tasks and stuff like that. So um I would say the right medication, so that the gene site testing, the right medication for my depression, the right diagnosis from a professional, not from, your bullies or your Facebook trolls or whoever, tells you that you're a narcissist because they didn't go to school for psychology or to, or any of those things. So having the right diagnosis, or multiple diagnoses, um, and then just really kind of accepting things for what they are at face value, and then moving forward with your life. Because if we stay in that, if we keep pulling that blanket behind us, like we're just going to stay in that bad space, that bad, you know, low, dark place, dirty, dark place. Um, and don't get me wrong, I'm kind of a weirdo. So like I'm really affected by like the moon cycles and stuff like that. So when that full moon is about to hit, I have headaches and I want to sleep a lot. And sometimes I start being more negative. I find myself going into the bad, mindset and stuff like that. But, you know, Reiki really helps me if I take the time to do that. The Reiki master that I see, she's amazing. Um, so yeah, just you got to find what works for you, because what works for me might not work for somebody else, or so you just got to find what works for you.
Yeah,
Um,
and don't get discouraged if you're trying
right.
new things and they're not working. Just be
Hmm.
like, oh, that's okay. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
trying. Because honestly, when I was going through healing those trauma bonds, because I have like so many different trauma bonds, because
Yeah.
I was raised by a narcissist, my mother, and then I started attracting narcissists in like relationships because I thought
Yeah.
that's what love looked like. I thought,
Right.
that was my foundation of, love was my mom. And so I thought that, my purpose in life was to just be walked all over and taken advantage of and caretaking and providing for everybody else and never getting anything in return. I thought it would be selfish to expect like
Hmm.
anything in return, like even the littlest of things. And so I kept going into all these relationships where I wasn't even second place in the relationship. I was like below our animals, below their friends, below, anything. And for me to heal that like deep inner wounding of I'm not enough, I'll never be enough, nothing I'll ever do is enough, was to start looking at myself and finding the things that I was grateful for within myself. Like, I'm very grateful that I can walk, that I can talk, that I can move. Because even seeing my dad have a traumatic brain injury and die from it, like all these things that we take for granted, like I took so much for granted. And so I had to categorize, okay, what are all the individual things that I'm so grateful for? Okay. And then what are the things in relationships that I'm grateful for? Like you were saying, I'm empathetic. I can understand people's emotions. I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful that I can look outside of myself and understand how I'm impacting the world and how the world is impacting me. And then I start to see how I am building the relationships outside of, the sexual ones, like my friends, my family,
Yep. Yep.
who I'm interacting with on a daily basis. Who do I want to interact with on a daily basis? What am I going to allow in my space? And I wrote down, what am I not going to allow? I'm not going to allow people to talk down to me. I'm not going to allow people to make any references to my body, even in a positive way, because I don't, that is, my body isn't me.
Yeah.
That's, my body isn't me. My spirit is me.
Are you? Are you like one of those people? Because this is how I am. If anybody compliments me, they could say like, "You have the most beautiful eyes," or "I love your tattoos," or just, I mean, anything. I'm like, thanks. I
Like
don't know what to do with
whinging, cringing,
I
not
don't
knowing
know.
what to do.
I don't know what to do with my hands. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I was like
Thanks for
that
the
for the
compliment.
longest time. Yes. Oh my God, yeah. I was like that for the longest time. I had to teach myself how to accept a compliment because
Yeah.
that is a really big thing that I was never taught was what is a compliment? What are the intentions behind a compliment? And usually compliments are because people like you. And so I was so used to the compliments of, my mom, which weren't real compliments. They were ways to get supply from me to get me to do things for her. So I always thought that compliments had, strings attached. Oh, what do you
Oh
want
yeah.
from me now? And so I had to
Hmm.
learn to be like, okay, accept it and then either move on if I knew that, like, if I sensed that there was like a string attached, or give them a compliment back. And I try very hard not to give compliments on looks. I try very hard to give compliments on the ways that they interact with the world, or the ways that they're presenting themselves, or their talents that I know that they've worked hard for, because I also came from a theater background. I've been a professional actor and singer since I was 3 years old. I've been getting paid for it for a very long time. So I always got the compliments on, oh, you did this performance so well, whatever. But I never got the compliments on, I can see how much effort you're putting into the character and the pedagogy and the work that you're doing. And so in the theatrical world, because I'm now teaching theater and acting and
Oh,
singing.
cool.
Yes, it's so good. I have
Yeah.
learned to start giving compliments to my students and helping them realize, each and every individual thing that they're improving on and that I can see effort and,
Hmm.
you know, even just raw talent. But mostly I want to compliment the effort that they're putting into, especially with singing and the dynamics that they're using and the way that they're utilizing their breath work and their mouth postures. I try to make sure that whenever I'm critiquing my student that I give them more positive affirmation than, not negative, but more positive affirmation than criticism, because I still want them to grow. I still want them to improve, but I have to point out with love and kindness the ways that they can improve versus, okay, you didn't do what I said. Your shoulders are not back. Your shoulders are hunched. You're closing in on yourself. You're not allowing yourself for
Yeah.
breath versus, hey, I just noticed. Let's do this together. Let's roll our shoulders back. Okay.
Hmm.
Now let's take a deep breath with our chest. Right now, let's take a deep breath with our diaphragm. Do you feel how that's different with our chest? Our shoulders rise up. Let's not let's not do that, because when we raise our shoulders up, we're actually impeding our vocal folds. We're tensing all of these muscles, which doesn't allow for us to vibrate them effectively. So we got to breathe from our diaphragm, way low in our stomach. Put your hand on your stomach, and then we breathe and then go. Those are very different ways of saying the same thing, but
Hmm.
one is full of love and affirmation and encourages them to grow
The
and
other
helps
one
them
is
get into their
wrong, wrong,
body.
wrong, wrong,
Mhm.
wrong, 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 wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. And so
Hmm.
I had to learn to give compliments, but then also accept compliments, because most of my students are little girls.
Yes.
And little girls really like me. It's very hard for me to say that because, like, I know it's usually like, oh, I'm whinging, but they do. And
Yeah.
that's hard for me to admit that I am a likable person and the little girls like me and they look up to me. And that's very hard. But it's also like, oh my goodness, I never thought I could be here. Like, one of their moms messaged me, like, I guess a few weeks ago, and her daughter couldn't come to class because her daughter's dog ran away. And so instead of replying to the mom, I then sent a paragraph to the daughter saying, don't worry about singing, like, take care of yourself. I gave her some like advice on if she like needs to find her dog. This is where you can look to, blah, 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 blah. And then I told her that I care about her, and whenever she's ready to come back to class, I'm going to be right here. And then her mom sent me another message of like, you made her cry very happy tears. And she's like saying that you're her favorite teacher, that you care so much. And they took the advice and they found the dog like a few hours later. And
Mhm.
then they were very appreciative because of me, that they were like, when you're in that heightened state of, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I've lost my puppy. I'm really
Mhm.
scared for my puppy. You can't really think logically because the logic part of your brain is kind of turned off. You can't think logically.
Yeah.
So for
You've
me to,
got anxiety. You've got the anxiety.
the anxiety is like spinning all around and
Yeah.
everyone's like, wait, stop. We need to figure things out. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you finally start to settle and realign your sympathetic nervous system and get rid of all that excess cortisol, you can start to think logically and do the next right thing. And that's what I tell my students all the time. It's like, okay, what is the next right thing for you? What's the next right thing for you to do? Is the next right thing for you to drink some water if you're feeling some scratchy? Like, taking care of yourself is not a crime. I feel like a lot of people associate self-care with being selfish. It's not
No,
true.
no, it's not. And if you don't care for yourself, then you're no good to anybody else. That's what I tell a lot of my clients that, and especially moms who are like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've left my baby, or like, um, I haven't had my hair done in 2 years because I've just put everybody else's needs before my own. And I'm like, I totally understand that. And I just want you to know that, even if you can only come see me for every 2 years, I'm happy to have you in my chair. But I firmly believe that if you do not take care of yourself and you don't do things that make you happy, then you're pouring from an empty cup, literally. Like, you got to fill your cup up too. You have to be full too. Um, so yeah, I understand completely where you're coming from on that. So
We also have to reconnect with others because we're social creatures. And if we're trauma bonded to people that are, you know, doing things to our detriment, it makes it very hard to accept love and praise, because if you're being constantly told that you don't deserve it, you're going to feel like you don't deserve it.
mhm.
And so from my experience, a really good way to, avoid those trauma bonds and abusive relationships is to keep building your tribe, keep expanding your outreach to other people,
Mhm.
and not just, trauma dumping on them and telling them everything that's going on, but investing in, mutual relationships with them where you're building them up while they're building you up, and being with each other, not just talking, but embracing one another, like creating together. And
Yeah.
I really am so inspired by you and your business because that takes so much work. I mean, like, you are a creative, you are an artist. Like, hair is artistry. I have pink hair for my birthday, and this
Love
took a lot
it.
of work. I did this myself. This took a lot of work because I have naturally black hair, and so I had to
Yeah.
like bleach it several times and touch it up and dye it several times because I have curly hair, so that's like a whole nother level to making sure
Yes.
all the color gets everywhere. That's a lot of work, and you're putting in a lot of work into other people to make them feel beautiful and feel like the outward is like being expressed by the inward self, because hair is like an outward expression of your inner beauty, in my own opinion.
Right.
And it's amazing. I really appreciate you,
Hair
Stephanie.
is the hair is the first thing that you see in the mirror of yourself, you know?
Mhm.
Um, have you seen that trend that is going around TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and it's like, oh, you're just a hairstylist. And it's like, yeah, I'm just a hairstylist. But, this week I had a guest that sat in an and I don't even call them guests because my clients are like family to me. I would drop anything and everything that I, could if they needed me in an instant. But, they sit in my chair and they share, I just had to put my mom on hospice. I just, had a miscarriage. I'm struggling to get pregnant, so we're doing in vitro. Um, there my boyfriend beat me. I'm getting a divorce. I have there are so many things that people come in and share with their hairstylist that they wouldn't share with anybody else because it's just that comfort. And I always joke that I give really good advice, but I don't take my own advice. If I took my own advice, I would be in a lot better place. But um, you know, maybe that's my gift to everybody is that I can give great advice and I can be there for you. And I need to look at that and think of that as a positive for myself rather than be so down on myself. Like, you look ugly today, you look fat today, like got those voices up that are over here. It's like the little, people on your shoulder, the little devil and the little angel, tell yourself what's good.
Mm-hmm.
Brush that off. Um, so yeah, I I'm I love that you are, inspiring little girls because I have a 9-year-old and I swear I think she just sings and dances her way through life. And I just wish I could be Taylor. She's like I call her my Tay Tay. My little Tay Tay. She has no idea when something bad is going on because she's like, la la la, and I'm like, I wish I could be more like her.
Well, you can be more like her because she is a part of you. Maybe
Yes.
that part of you is, shut down, but you can do that for yourself. I mean, watching your daughter and emulating the joy that she is, so easily able to express. I think that could be her gift to you, is letting you know that it's okay to be happy. It's okay to feel
Mm-hmm.
joy.
Mm-hmm.
When we suppress those emotions, it makes going about life so difficult. But you are in such a privileged position to see someone who is part of you express themselves in that way. And
Mm-hmm.
you can do it. She's clear proof that it is possible. I don't
Yes.
think that she doesn't have any sadness. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she has her hard times as well, but she chooses joy, and you can as well. You are so
Yeah.
capable, and so you are beautiful, not just on the outside, but your ability to see your children as, not just extensions of you, but as individuals is a amazing thing that not many moms are able to do at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to, my daughter's in therapy and I've gone with her a couple times and her therapist looked at me and she goes, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I work with a lot of families and a lot of teenagers and a lot of kids. And I can tell you right now that I've never seen a stronger bond between a mom and a daughter. And, that makes my heart so happy that somebody else can recognize that, like, this just love that I have for my kids. And I got to share something with you because, teenage boys are very like, they're like Gollum, they only come out of their like dark space when they need to like eat and like find their, like, what they're looking for or whatever. So, but anyways, it's my husband's son, but I call him my son too. He's 17, and the other day I was a hot mess, and I was just crying and sobbing, and like we were talking, and he came and gave me a hug, and then he kissed my forehead, and he goes, "It's all gonna be okay." So I ugly cried a little bit more
Yeah.
because it's like, I don't care if they get A's and B's in school, or if they are, you know, cheer captain, or, you know, the best at what they do or whatever. I care that I'm raising empathetic humans who are good people and who are kind and who are generous. And I feel like I've done that. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm doing that. Because I don't think of I can't think of many 17-year-old boys that would hug their mom and be like, "It's gonna be okay," and give them a kiss. That's what a mom is supposed to do, right? Like,
Mhm.
so, you know,
You're doing a good job.
thank you. I try my hardest. I try so hard to be a good mom. That's one thing that I've been working on too with my therapist, is like, what's your identity? Like, because your identity can't be that you're just a hairstylist, or that you're just a mom, or that you're just a wife, or whatever. Like, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm actually taking a trip to like my happy place without the kids, without anybody. And I'm going to be on the beach, and I'm just going to like listen to, the waves, and feel the sand. And
Yeah. You got
sometimes
this.
we just need that,
Yeah.
find your happiness. Sometimes you do have to find it. Sometimes you do have to find the joy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'll reference Inside Out too again, because that's everybody, was trying to stifle the joy. And it's like, all these emotions are supposed to be felt, and it's okay to feel them, but you still got to find the joy in all of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I wish more people knew that, and knew that how much they're loved, because I don't think that, a lot of people do. Those negative voices in their brain are telling them,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are doing an awesome job. I mean, yeah, I'm proud of you too. So,
Thank you. Do you have any closing statements, Stephanie?
no, I think we touched on all of the things that, find, find your joy, find your happiness, find what works for you in your healing journey. Because what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. Um, and never be afraid to like ask for help or talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just don't think that we were put on this earth to like be alone. Even though we sometimes feel so alone, um, we weren't put on this earth to be alone. We were put on this earth for a reason, for a purpose. Um, and if you haven't found that purpose, then it's okay. You're still looking for your identity, and maybe you'll find it like me at, in your 30s, or maybe you'll find it in your 20s, or maybe you'll find it in your teens. Just, I don't think there's a timeline to find that either. And there's not a timeline for healing either. And healing is not linear. It is a big ball of necklaces that you have to untangle. And sometimes that sucks. Actually, all the time that sucks. So just persevere, and if you can't love yourself in that moment, that's okay too. Because sometimes it's not easy to love yourself in that moment, because we're human and we all make mistakes. But if you can look inside yourself, like you said, and say, man, that was kind of extra. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, why did I just like cut up my boyfriend or my fiance's favorite painting? If you can turn around and look inside yourself and be like, you are absolutely right, and I was absolutely wrong for doing that. That is a healing journey in itself too. Being able to apologize and say, I'm sorry, I messed up. Like, um, I didn't make the right choice and I didn't say the right thing or whatever. Um, that's that's a good part of a healing journey as well. Don't internalize it. That's just gonna make more anxiety. So yeah.
Be kind to yourself because you deserve it, but still acknowledge whenever you are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a crime to struggle. You are not the worst person in the world to have anxiety, and you're not the worst person in the world to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's what we do after those mistakes that really define our character. And if you want to continue to grow and you need some people to hold you accountable, we have a free anonymous Discord. The links are in the description where you can share anything that you're going through and get support for what you're going through, because we can't do this alone. Like Stephanie was saying, you can't do it alone. And if you need some confidence on how to talk to people about what you're going through, Discord, free resource. It's pretty great. And I'm on there. You can talk to me. You can
I
DM
love
me.
it. Yes, yes. I love it. And my maiden name was Taylor, so that's why my daughter's name is Taylor, and she's my 9-year-old, the one that I said slipped through life, she's just no cat, not a care in the world.
Yeah, it's my maiden
So
name too. So I'm gonna be Grace Wong next year.
oh girl, you're
Interesting.
moving down in the alphabet. Good thing you already graduated, right?
I feel bad for our children. My fiance's full name is Joseph Wong Vermillion. And we had to make that choice of being like, okay, are we going to be Wongs? Or are we going to be Vermillions? And he's like, I hated growing up having to spell out Vermillion for everyone. So let's just go simple. We're going to be Wongs. I was like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it.
awesome. Well, you are awesome for doing these podcasts. I watched your TikToks of, other people's experiences and how they've moved forward in their lives, and it's really just, it's inspiring sometimes to see that people can heal and they can move forward and you don't have to be stuck. So, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Everybody go follow Stephanie over on TikTok. It is at Stephanie Raub. So at STEPHANIERAUB. Please
Yes.
go follow her.
At the end of every episode, we spin our wheel of emotions to learn a new feeling and how it correlates to trauma. Let's spin this wheel today, shall we? Okay. It landed in between disappointment and awful, which, bro, when we're going through it, we often feel awful and we may project those feelings and emotions onto other people. And then finally, when we're out of that anger, we might feel really disappointed in ourselves and how we reacted and how we impacted others. I feel this. When I was just starting my healing journey, because when you're going through your healing journey, everyone thinks that, oh, it's going to be all light and fluffy and happiness and rainbows and the light's going to come in. No, when you're going through your healing journey, that light shines on everything that went wrong so that you can recognize everything that went wrong, and then so that you can do your best to work through each and every little thing. And when that light shines on everything that went wrong, a lot of it shines on what you maybe did that wasn't the best. And I have to hold myself accountable when I was really angry, because anger is a tool, right? Anger is a tool to help us determine when something that is happening to us is wrong, right? Your body is saying, this is wrong. I don't want to accept this. This is not a good thing that's happening to me or to someone else that I love. Anger is a tool. And sometimes we use that tool in a way that hurts other people. And I most certainly did. When I was first going through healing from all the shit that my mom put me through and losing my dad, I lashed out at a lot of people. And I'm very disappointed in myself. And I still, to this day, feel very awful about it. But the only thing that I can do is apologize, is hold myself accountable and say, that was wrong, not justify it in any means. Of course, I was angry. I was angry for a good reason. But the reason doesn't justify the action, right? And so I have to apologize to the people that I've hurt, either intentionally or unintentionally, because I know I hurt them. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot to apologize for the things that you have done and hold yourself accountable. And today, I'm going to hold myself accountable. If you, the listeners, have ever been impacted negatively by anything that I have said or done, I really sincerely apologize. I hope you can take this apology as it is and let me know in the comments, if you're watching us on YouTube, if I've ever said or done anything that you didn't appreciate. I would love to know, okay? Special thanks goes out to all of our Discord users. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of my podcast. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to support the podcast, we have a Patreon. Different tiers can get you a bracelet like these, which are handmade bracelets made by me, Grace. I have other jewelry like earrings, necklaces, chokers, anklets. I have it all. I make it all. Or you can get a sticker like the one on the back of my computer. Those links are in the description. Any support helps out a lot. So if you feel compelled to, please like, subscribe, rate the show, and share the show with your friends. Remember, you are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise again from the ashes and be filled with peace, hope, love, joy, and understanding. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Mwah! Goodbye.